from the deep end of Alabama, 9 drivers look to survive and advance in what might be the most pivotal race in the journey for the championship. Live from the virtual Talladega Super Speedway, we welcome you to the penultimate race in the round of 9, Season 2 of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series and the Dynamo Designs 201. Welcome back to the KBueno Racing Network. So glad that you're with us on our playoff coverage. We're right atop the broadcast booth. My name is Kenneth Bueno. And into this round of 9, this second race might just be the most important. We've seen what happens in these middle rounds where drivers either make or break their run for the championship. Last week we started the round of 9 at Chicagoland Speedway, a very difficult 1.5-mile track, but this time around we open things up and it gets dramatically chaotic once you get to a track like Talladega. 2.66 miles of open-endedness and a lot of questions when you look overhead here in Lincoln, Alabama. Let's take a look first at our track map with images provided to us by Google Earth. And this behemoth of a track was born in 1969, an even bigger of a track than Daytona in Florida. It's a 2.66 mile, 4.281 kilometer tri-oval super speedway, which of course, like we said, opened back in 1969, but you find much more braking this time around. 32 to 33 degrees of banking in the turns, 16.5 on that tri-oval. That is not the location of the front straightaway start-finish line. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. You find 3 degrees on the back straightaway, but this track is huge. This track is definitely not afraid to show its wrath, and like we talked about, this type of racing, super speedway racing, very chaotic, and it could open things up dramatically when it comes down to the playoff fight. Let's talk about the playoff fight. Let's see exactly where each driver is. Of course, we eliminated a couple of drivers after last week's outing, or 2 weeks ago rather, at the Pocono Raceway. We started with these 9 drivers, and Garrett White picked up his 5th win of the season at Chicagoland. Of course, no surprise, he's at the top of the tally. Tied for second, Gino Mero and Dimitri Munoz, some of the most consistent drivers we've seen all season long. Josh Patterson, your defending series champion, he is at the cusp of being eliminated, and then just those couple of points shy to the cut line, where 5th place Joe Berge sits at 1558 on his point tally. Then goes rookie driver Sky McGurk, who didn't even know he was going to be in the playoffs after the last race of the regular season at Myrtle Beach. He's here. He's now making a deep playoff run. He is P6 on the playoff charts. Then goes Clayton Ramstead, Timmy Spatz, and Caden Rice. So out of the drivers who did make the championship 4 last season, all 4 of them are a part of this group, and then add in the other 5 drivers making their first appearance most likely in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series playoffs. So as drivers take trackside behind the start-finish line and stand behind the iRacing official pace truck, it is our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and where all the playoff drivers will line up for this 47-lap shootout in Lincoln, Alabama. Marcus Vanderlee, out of nowhere, pole position at a 54.174. He's not a playoff driver, neither is Laith Hicks in the 06, who starts alongside in second. Both of them going to occupy row number 1 when we see the green flag. Jay Mulder in the 51, the Canadian driver, is inside the top 3. The first playoff driver out of the group in these rows is Joe Berge. He's the highest starting playoff driver. He's going to be on the outside of that second row in P4. League owner Brayson Collins supporting the Ty Makes Music scheme this evening. He's got Pierce Maffitt to his outside in P6, row number 3. Ryan Zabot will start from inside the top 7, and then it will be the defending champion right on the cut line going into tonight's race, Josh Patterson in P8. Jeremy Cooks with a solid qualifying effort, good enough to put him P9. Ryan Kame in the 23, going to be alongside to wrap up the top 10. And then a new driver, Jack Leslie in the 37. I think the first time we see him in this series. He is from P11 at the drop of the green this evening. Nicholas Badimlik in the number 84 will be on his outside in P12. Pretty far starting spot for the defending winner of this race, Garrett White in the 26, looking to add another win to his illustrious season so far. Hunter Collier in the 98. We've seen him do pretty well at these super speedways. We'll see what he can do from P14. Steven Shipman in the 61 is the last driver in the top 15. Caden Rife, a playoff driver, in the 97, going to be in P16. 16. The 39 of Aiden Kirker is 17th. Ryan Martin will be 18th in row number 9. Brianna Levin in the 74. Good shootout at Bristol a couple of weeks back. Starts 19th. Frederick Seagraves in the number 93 will be the last driver inside your top 20. Tristan Rivers and Bo Krebs, the 68 and the 168, start 21st and 22nd. Paul Granata is in 23rd. Logan Suyi back in 24th. And then to wrap up the top 25, the last driver to take time in qualifying is the number 34 of Henry Clapper, but there are a lot more drivers to tell you about. We'll start with the 92 of Alexander Hyder, the driver that went to victory lane the last time we were at a super speedway. That was at Atlanta in P26. Gino Mero is P27. Austin Doran is 28th. Connor Trafari will be 29th. Chris Downey in the 22 wraps up your top 30. Then goes Timmy Spatz. Dimitri Munjos to double up in P31, P32. Connor Hervilla in 33rd. James Bomar to roll off from 34th. 35th is rookie driver Sky McGurk playing Ramstead on his outside in row number 18 and 36. John Canizaro, 37th. Hunter Fox, 38th. Chase Marsden, 39th. 40th to Duncan Fall. TJ Lair. David Bachman back to 42nd. Cameron McCone and Tyson Gifford will roll off in row number 22, our 44 car grid. It is heavy here from the virtual Talladega Superspeedway. So we go for 47 laps here from Dega, 125 miles and just over 200 kilometers, hence the name Dynamo Designs 201. Of course, a lot to talk about in terms of the playoff fight and just how important this middle race is in the round of 9. We will close the round of 9 at the virtual Martinsville Speedway. That's going to provide for a lot of drama. We're going to shorten things up dramatically and go to that half mile in Virginia. But here at Talladega, anything can happen, and just based off of what we've seen qualifying-wise for the playoff drivers, it looks like all of them just want to survive and move on through. Nobody wants to be aggressive. Nobody wants to be the driver that gets involved in what is known as the big one here at this track. It could strike at any moment. It could strike at any part of the field. Drivers hoping they're not a part of that and hoping they can cross the start-finish line first. So it will be the number 056 in Marcus Vanderlee, the 06 of Lath Hicks. Going to take him to the trial. Well, pace truck is down. We will not see the green flag until a couple of 100 feet after where they are right now. They'll get into the Geico restart zone. It's a long wait to that start-finish line. And Barney, the flagman, but they enter the zone. We are under green, and the Dynamo Designs 201 is underway. Shuffling Marcus Vanderlee out of the way at the entrance of the trial room. He's got help from Brayson Collins in the 5, and they'll shuffle to the race lead back to turn 1 to complete lap number 1. We saw Joe Berge in the 41 slide out of the way. He went to the outside 3 wide. He has since settled back in the P10 spot, so he's in the midst of the midfield. Car on the outside, that's Pierce Maffett to make it 3 wide. There's some drivers making a third line work near the rear of the field, but so far, still your front row up at turn 3. Looks like Marcus Vanderlee is going to duck out of the way, suffering some blinking issues. He's going to let the whole field by on the inside. Josh Patterson going to weave his way to 3rd, and Jay Mulder going to lead them out of turn 4. Similar sight to Daytona. Jay Mulder, the winner, the first race of Season 2 of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. You know how good of a super speedway racer he could be. Brayson Collins not afraid to push him right behind. Josh Patterson in 3rd. Ryan Zabot now moving to the outside. He'll have help from the outside front row starter in Lath Hicks. So try and make a move on the drivers in P1. P1 and P2. You see just how big of a field this is. 44 cars. It's really hard to put it into imagination just how large of a field that is. That means a lot of points on tap. A driver forcing his way through the middle. That's Hunter Fox in his number 98 machine. He's going to try and see if he can make it work, but for right now, it doesn't seem to be the case. It looks like he's going to be able to shuffle through the middle, and the 008 rather of Hunter Fox going to be second on the outside. A big push from Chris Downey in the 22, and now you see a lot of separation between them in that outside lane led by Connor Trafari. He may have a driver just in front of him, and that might just be, I think it is, the number 84, Nicholas Badimlik. Indeed it is. So they're going to try and coop up with the three drivers up at the top. But right now, they're going to make a case known against Jay Mulder and company on the bottom. Here comes Zabo. Hunter Fox looking to go through the middle. He'll get there. The number 008 with a chance for the race lead in turn 3. And you can see the sea of drivers not running for the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series title. Of course, all the playoff drivers outlined by orange banners on the top of the windshields, orange spoilers, and orange splitters. You're not seeing any of those at the front. Josh Patterson, the only one inside at least the top 6 or so, although he's going to get bounced to P8. And new race leader this time, Chris Downey on the outside, pushed by Budimlik as Hunter Fox tries to retaliate on the bottom. Outright chaos right on board with the number 22 of Downey, who takes the lead on the back straightaway. Hunter Fox still trying to make something to work on the bottom. Jay Mulder, can he move that of line for a slight moment? He'll get back in. Now a third line. How about James Bomar, Ryan Zabo, the two tandeming in that third lane. And they're both going to power to what's been a fragmented outside line. It looks like Zabo might even make it 4 wide for a glimpse of a second. He'll dive to the bottom, and he'll get behind Connor Trafari. So a more organized second line. Austin Duran, the only other driver in that top third lane at the 33 degrees of banking near that outside wall. And it looks like Bomar will fall back and attempt at the race lead. Obviously fizzling out at this point as Jafari will give the push to Hunter Fox. Will try to get him back to the lead. Now a third line in development once more. This time it's the 74, Brianna Lavin, pushing the 10 in turn 3. Might be a three-way battle for what could be P5 on the racetrack. A lot of aggression early, right on board with a driver who's looking to stay away from some of the aggression. Josh Patterson in the 02, the defending series champion. And although we did see Joe Berge start up at the front of this race, he has since been bounced to 17. And it looks like Patterson is really the only playoff driver that you can see inside this top 11. And this is the view he has out of his Toyota Supra. Both lines still formed up, but obviously you want to stay out of trouble, and it can be very hard to get out of it here at Talladega. You see so much space compared to Daytona, but still, when drivers start piling up, when you have a big crash happening in front of you, the smoke arises. It is so hard to make a move to get out of harm's way. And especially with the playoff drivers deep in the field, the non-playoff drivers at the very front acting aggressively, you really need to be on all 10 toes and pretty much tippy-toeing through the field if you want to escape alive and obviously still with a viable shot at making the championship 4. Now another battle for the race lead. Hunter Fox, same driver on the inside, but this time a different face up top. Connor Trafari in the 69 to the point, turn 1. I look on board with Trafari, one of the drivers who is so good at Atlanta Motor Speedway, our last super speedway race, and while that was a 1.5 miler, of course still a same super speedway nature in Trafari, although he wasn't really able to get to the drivers of Logan Suyi, to the eventual winner Alexander Heider in the 92. This 69 was a driver to watch for. Trafari was not afraid to make moves, and he was a good pushy, a driver that could really lead a line and cooperate with all the drivers behind him. It looks like it is pointing out the same way for Trafari as they are duking it out for P1. Hunter Fox bouncing off of 2 cars. He'll get into Chris Downey. They scatter across the racing track at the exit of the trial bowl. Somehow, we're going to stay green. Hunter Fox, you can see the damage on the left side of his Camaro. Ryan Zabot gonna shuffle to the race lead as a result. A huge scare on the front straightaway as Downey made it 3 wide for the lead. And that alters the perplexion for everybody, as it'll be a 4-car train on the bottom. Trafari looking to man a topside groove. Aiden Kirker was the driver up there in the 39, and he's got help from Austin Duran, now make it a 4th car in line. Looks like Pierce Maffitt in his 41 Toyota Supra, and so Connor Trafari looking to maintain a spot at the front. And he'll look to get back to P1 as Zabot holds on to it right now. Hunter Fox has dropped back to P13 on the racetrack there. He is sitting behind David Bachman in the 119, and I cannot believe that was not an incident on the racetrack to bring out our first yellow on lap number 9. We'll see exactly how it all happened, and you could really tell from the top side view just how scary this got. Chris Downey looking to the inside, Fox giving a huge block, and both of them wiggle, get through the apron, and as the 008 gets into Trafari, he travels back down the track into Downey, and somehow the whole field avoids calamity. Both Hunter Fox and Chris Downey are able to keep their cars collected, and with that, we stay green in our Dynamo Designs 201 as Fox looks to push through the middle. He'll get into David Bachman and almost about turns him in the trial wall. Meanwhile, battle for the lead. Trafari back up to the top, help from Aiden Kirker in the 39. He'll look to side draft Zabot in the 10, and you can tell once more the lack of playoff drivers in the top 10. They saw exactly what happened, and Josh Patterson backed out of that as quickly as he could. Now make it Joe Berge, the highest running playoff driver on the inside, roughly 4 or 5 cars deep. Hunter Fox continuing to try and get back to the front, almost made it about 4 wide. In the middle of the racetrack, you're looking at David Bachman right now on the 119. That third line still with Austin Duran in the 55. For right now, the whole field going to look to accordion back together. Look to get more organized as Maffitt gets shuffled out of line, and Hunter Fox becomes the 3rd car on the 2nd groove back to turn 1. We got a 2nd grouping of cars. This starts with Logan Suyi. It looks like Nicholas Badimlik, Brayson Collins, who at one point was in P2 on the racetrack a couple of laps ago, pushing the 51 of Jay Mulder. Looks like both of them have backed out, and you can see the sea of cars that are in a single file train all the way at the back. Again, that philosophy of staying at the back, trying to avoid the chaos. That's why you're not seeing a lot of playoff drivers up at the front. We did see a lot of playoff drivers survive last time we were here at this track. But with the 44-car field that presents to them when we drop the green flag, obviously your approach is going to change. Your blueprint is going to alter, and you're going to look to do something else, and that may just be hanging around in the first half of this race at the back of the field. There's a lap car up ahead, turn 1, that is Frederick Seagraves in the 93. He's going to back out, give everybody space on that 3rd lane, and with that, that'll move Connor Trafari to the race lead, this time comfortably on the inside. He'll try to block both lines at the exit of turn 2. Big push from Aiden Kirker. Hunter Fox again moving through the middle. He'll shuffle the 39 out of whack. Maffitt hits the outside wall. And with that, we almost have ourselves another piece of contact with the leaders up at the top of the field. Kirker gets moved out of line. Hunter Fox to 2nd on that 2nd groove. Trafari up at the front. We'll see what Hunter Fox can do, because he has not given up since getting the piece of contact with Chris Downey. There's Trafari blocking the inside back to turn 1. You can see the shift in momentum go to the drivers on the short end around the racetrack. And Hunter Fox is going to be able to stay put. Looks like Bachman and company do not want to go with him. They understand what he's done on the racetrack already. Tristan Rivers to give support. Pierce Maffitt up at the top side of the track. It looks like Austin Duran, who had been in the 3rd lane all race long, is going to move to the middle and try to support Brianna Lavin and that 008 to move to the very front. We're seeing that inside be so organized. That outside has taken a while to do so, and it's been in and out, in and out, in and out, whether they're formed together or not. They have been trying their hardest to get to P1. It looks like Trafari will hold on to the lead. It'll give them some extra time to stay up front ahead of Ryan Zabot. Here's the third line still with the 119 of David Bachman, pushed by Tristan Rivers back to turn 1. This should be inside the top 10 they're making moves for at the moment. This is P6, where Bachman sits on the timing and scoring. But with all these moves being made, with Hunter Fox threading through the middle multiple times on end, and with drivers looking to avoid him, it looks like that second groove really has not found their pace. It looks like Brianna Lavin will finally get to the outside of Zabot, now make it a formidable charge for the lead on top of the 69. Connor Trafari, as they cross the stripe, they'll come out of turn 4 for lap number 16, and still non-playoff drivers dominate the front half of this field, apart from that orange banner Joe Berge machine in the 41. Here's a look at the playoff drivers and some of the many that you can find near the rear of the field. This is 21st place Josh Patterson, defending series champion. He was once inside the top 10 or so, has now moved back. He understood just how chaotic it got. You look at other playoff drivers in this group, Caden Wright from the 97. You look at all the way back, you may even look to Garrett White, who will be looking for his 6th win of this season. A driver right in front of him, that's Bo Krebs, but then you look further back to the field. Sky McGurk lodged in 36th. Timmy Spatz in 37th. And as a crash happens right in front of them, they're going to try to avoid. That's Austin Duran that's around. The smoke came up out of the rear end of the 55, and after 16 laps in this Dynamo Designs 201, our first caution is out from Talladega. Multi-car incident involving Doron and what looks to be the 008 of Hunter Fox. Here's a look at how it all started. There's a bit of contact between Tristan Rivers getting into the back end of the 55. Sends him into Fox. And everybody does a fantastic job to get out of the way and to not make it a multi-car pileup. Here's a look at exactly what happened on the back straightaway. The big run by the 55 looks to push Brianna Lavin, but just got sandwiched there and turned by Tristan Rivers. Bit of contact there with Hunter Fox and what looks to be the 22 of Chris Downey. See if we can get another perspective this time from Hunter Fox. Second on the middle lane. Just gets a bit of contact into Downey for the second time tonight. And a bit of a slide for Hunter Fox through the transition in the apron. Fortunately, keeps that Camaro straight. Wheelman effort by Fox, and we're going to be able to be under our first yellow flag this time at lap number 17. So this is a good sign for the field, just because they'll have the opportunity to come down for pit road. It'll be Ryan Zabot, the race leader, leading them on in. John Canizaro, Connor Hervilla, Connor Trafari, then Brianna Lavin to wrap up the top 5. There's Canizaro going for the pit box. And obviously here at Talladega, you don't necessarily look at tires as the biggest concern. You're looking at fuel. And with the tank that we have in these NASCAR Xfinity Series cars, you're going to want to have enough fuel to make it to the end. We're probably going to see the jacks not lifted on either side of the race car by your leader, Zabot, or really anyone in this field. Some drivers also taking damage repair. Quick stop for the 10 of Zabot. He'll try to beat Canizaro out to the line. He will. So Zabot will keep himself in the race lead. A great run so far by that Nutrien AG Solutions number 10 car. So bulk of the field still on pit road. There's a look at Sky McGurk ahead of Nicholas Badimlik coming out of the lane. There's Caden Wright from the 97 there as well. And over the first 18 laps of the race, you look at Dimitri Munoz now buried in the field as well. All of these drivers in the back of the field. They do not want anything to do with what's happening up at the front. They understand if a big crash happens, and if Doron had collected more drivers in that crash after getting hit by Rivers, they want to be as far from it as possible, and they want to make sure that they can slow down in enough time, avoid any piece of damage, and obviously keep their playoff hopes alive, as Joe Berge is electing the alternate strategy. We've seen him rather aggressive at the front. Looks like he's going to be staying out this lap and will be the race leader. We'll just wait and see whether this is a second-guess decision by the 41, whether he just missed the stall and will come in a second time by. But for right now, the TikTok machine of Joe Berge going to be at the very front by the time we get the green flag and our first restart of the race here in this Dynamo Designs 201. So we talk about drivers on a hot streak. Garrett White is one of them for sure. He's been on a tear throughout these WORC Dynamo Designs National Series playoffs and continues to just put it on the field. This was the first win of the season. This came at Kansas. Picked up a couple of wins last season, including 3 in a row. Made it to the championship 4. Could not get there. And this looks like the start of a redemption tour. Final race of the regular season at Myrtle Beach was waved off due to the cautions at the end, exhausting all of the green-white checkered attempts. Then came Charlotte despite the chaotic finish and the competition in the final laps. White was a dominant force since the drop of the green flag, then got his 3rd win of season number 2, and then came win number 4 not too long after. Bristol Motor Speedway defended that win in the scheme that he's bearing tonight at Talladega. Got that win, was able to burn it down a couple of weeks ago. And then 1 week prior at Chicagoland to open the round of 9, the 26 went back to victory lane. And ever since, it has been an absolute tear for the driver of the 26. 9 career wins in this series, the most of any driver to ever partake in this series. 5 wins of the season, including 3 for the playoffs. 7 top 5s, 8 top 10s on the calendar. If there's one thing to say about the driver of the 26 is that he is on an absolute mission to get back to Homestead of Miami Speedway, but this time lifting the trophy at the end of it all. He's also the defending winner of this race at Talladega. He made the move in the final laps to get that win last season. We'll see if he could do it all over again, but for right now, he comes down pit road a 2nd time. He's going to just top off on some fuel. He's going to look to survive as long as he can as we get closer to halfway here in this Dynamo Designs 201. So caution out for the first time. Ryan Zabo, your race leader. John Canizaro on the outside of row number 1. Brianna Lavin and Connor Havrilla going to be 3rd and 4th on the racetrack. Connor Trafari, who at one point had the race lead, he's going to be the first driver inside the top 5. And then we'll have everybody all the way back. And also note, P7, Alexander Hyder, the winner last time we were at a super speedway at Atlanta Motor Speedway. So Hyder slowly moving through the field, and that's going to be a lot of fun to see them try and duke it out for the point. Also to note that the top 3 tonight will have some cash prizes on behalf of Cameron McCone and Patrick Jenks. Patrick Jenks, the driver who makes the Keystone Corner, one of the series sponsors in WORC, part of the GT3 calendar. And so nice to see that there's some extra rewards for the drivers that will finish in the top 3 this evening. So it will give a little bit more of an incentive for sure for the drivers that want to be at the front. That's probably why we're seeing so many non-playoff drivers in this race. 44 drivers to begin this event. They are definitely looking for a win and obviously some cash to follow and be a little richer in their bank account. Ryan Zabo, John Canizaro, 1st and 2nd will lead us to the Geico restart zone and to the green for the first time here from Talladega. After a restart and a crash involving Austin Doran, green flag back in the air, and the 10 of Zaburo brings the Dynamo Designs 201 back to action and to turn 1. And here comes Shafari, gonna thread through the middle, no help, but the 69 will pummel through the front. It looks like the 74 of Brianna Lavin will look to the bottom. Connor Havrilla to help, and the 74 to the race lead for the first time from Talladega. Jafari now left for dust in the middle. And with absolutely no help, it'll break up whatever that outside line was trying to make happen. And it'll be just 2 cars in that 3rd lane. John Canizaro in the 018. And now, of course, that number 10 machine of Ryan Zabo. Now make it 3 cars in the middle. There's Josh Patterson with some help. That's Brayson Collins in the 5 to give support. And the 0-2 of Patterson trying to move his way through the front as drivers fan out all over the place trying to catch that 74. Trafari looking to gain some of the momentum on the top. And here comes Hunter Collier to make a move for 2nd. And once more, that outside line finally hooked up together. No chaos and no stringing out of the field. It looks like Zabo is still making things work on that 3rd lane, looking to maintain some hope. And John Canizaro to give push, but nobody else looking to help. And Trafari giving the push to Collier, Patterson, Collins, and now make it Joe Berkey. The 5 cars in that second lane now make it 3 on the top. Jay Mulder in the 51. Collier on the outside for the race lead at the exit of turn 2. That third lane still trying to develop. They make their way down the back straightaway. Here comes Zabo with a huge run. He'll go for third. He'll go for second, possibly for the lead into turn 3. Collier will move down. We're 3 wide for second. Lavin, the second car in line on the inside. That Rheem Toyota Supra. And Trafari now in the middle, looking to get help from Josh Patterson in the third lane. Now operable. Jay Mulder, Henry Clapper, Brayson Collins, the company in move as well. There's been absolutely no fear after the drop of this green flag on the restart for Josh Patterson, as he fell all the way back to the top 20 or so and now finds his way back in contention for the lead. Here's a look on board with your defending series champion. And Patterson able to stay behind Trafari. Could be a good pusher here as Cannizzaro will look to the outside once more. And that may be the possibility. We'll see drivers experiment with that third lane. Zabo and Cannizzaro have proven that it could work when they get a couple of cars there as Brianna Lavin ducks to the inside and will let the whole field by on the apron. But that third line is there, and it is possible with the space you have here at Talladega Superspeedway. So Zabo and Cannizzaro might just flirt with it one more time. Cannizzaro looks up to block Brayson Collins, but that second lane gonna side draft, and it'll give Josh Patterson an opportunity to fight for the lead with Trafari back to turn 1. So much going on here at this Talladega Superspeedway as we now work the halfway point of this Dynamo Designs 201. And with that, we'll bring in the second member of our broadcast team tonight. How about Ezekiel Reyes, one of the drivers that we saw a couple of weeks back at Bristol Motor Speedway in this series. And Ezekiel, I know that you obviously covered the race that we had last season at Daytona. You know exactly how these Superspeedway series and races work. What do you think of this race so far, and exactly how do you think it's going to pan out with what we've seen?
As long as you get to the end, I mean, all the key is it's all about survival at the moment. You got 42 cars on the lead lap here, and we're about to go 3 wide yet again. But that whole entire restart, right off the bat, you saw them take it 3 wide right off the bat. I think all these drivers have a very different mindset. You see Patterson just pinching down. He's trying to maintain that front pack and keep himself in good spirits up there, but he's getting taken 3 wide. We're going to go 3 wide down the backstretch.
Yeah, 3 wide on the back straightaway. That is Ryan Zabo again, making that third lane work. Look at Hunter Collier, a massive block to the 10. He'll wiggle, but he'll keep the car straight, and he'll get in front of Josh Patterson before it gets 3 wide once more for second. And Hunter Collier with a masterclass super speedway move is going to get to the race lead. But you talk about mindsets here, Ezekiel, and one of them has to be an analysis with the O2 of Josh Patterson. He is really the only playoff driver inside this top 10 apart from Caden Wright from the 97, and it looks like ever since we got that restart, he's shot out of a cannon, and it looks like he has been absolutely fearless to work with the front. Even though we are 3 wide for the lead, he has shown no signs of backing out. What does that say about the playoff field and exactly how comfortability works in this type of scenario when you're 24 laps in?
Well, for Patterson as a playoff driver, you want to stay out of trouble. And by the looks of his mindset, he wants to keep himself in front and out of the way of that mid-pack where all that commotion happens. But he's kind of stuck, kind of sandwiched in 3 wide. It might look chaotic for him, but this is all just controlled chaos, and this is all calculated for this O2 and keeping himself up front. And that 98, that car he's working with on that second lane, he's doing a good job of just maintaining ground. But here comes the 10 here on that third lane. He's might make a charge. I think it's Zabo. They're up on that high side, but Patterson, all he's doing is just staying himself up front and in position, just to keep himself maintained for right now.
Of course, it can be controlled chaos, but it could easily unravel at your fingertips. And for Patterson right now, it looks like it seems to be okay. He's the leader of this line. He's got Jeremy Cook and Aiden Kirker to give support in the second groove. That third lane still trying to make something happen. Third car in line in that, the 119 of David Bachman. And while Patterson has not been the prime super speedway racer, not necessarily those drivers that we would say are heavy hitters, Patterson can put himself in a position to win, no doubt about it. He's been a dirt winner twice in his WORC Dynamo Designs National Series career. He knows a thing or two about chaos in some sort of way. It looks like it's working right now. As we hold the outside, Trafari getting rather close, and the side draft going to work to keep the 0-2 at bay, and will maintain that 98 of Hunter Collier in the spot for P1. So now we enter the final half of the Dynamo Designs 201. It is going to get a little hairier, and of course top 3 getting prize positions, but you look now at the rest of the playoff field. I saw Caden Reif inside the top 10, but you have to go really far back to get to one of the next playoff drivers in Sky McGurk. So as the second half of this race approaches, these guys are going to have to try and find their way to the front, because if not, they may just bury themselves by the time we get to Martinsville, and that cut line is going to get very close, and we're going to have drivers eliminated.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, for all those drivers who are laying back, they're treating this as a fixed race. As you see a bit of 3 wide, one car gets booted out of line. That's the 97. Looks like that's Jack Leslie. But for all those drivers who are laying themselves to the back of this field, they're treating this like a fixed race. But I mean, 42 cars all on the lead lap as they maybe look to split out Patterson in this number 02. But all those drivers, all the playoff drivers who are leading in the back, they got to work through at least 20 cars as Patterson finally shuffles himself to the bottom line. But that's a lot of cars they have to work themselves through to get themselves maybe into a top 10. So that's why Patterson maybe wants to keep himself to the front. Big bump there by the 10. Oh boy, we're stacking up 3 wide.
We are 3 wide, and that was Connor Trafari, who looked to make a move for the lead, tried to get some help for P1, and it looks like he got shuffled out of the way. It was Jeremy Cook who didn't want to go with him, the 39 of Aiden Kirker, and the 3rd driver in line, also playoff contender, Joe Berge in the 41. We do also have to let you know that there are 3 drivers out of this race. James Bomar in the 44, he booked it a couple of laps ago. Looks like Dimitri Mundros is back in 41st, or rather 43rd. Actually, no, 41st on the racetrack, but here he is all by himself on the racetrack in the 60. This is going to hurt him dearly if he gets put a lap down or more as they continue to shuffle for the lead. This time it's a new face at the front. Contact between Hunter Fox and Alexander Hyder in turn 3.
Boy, that field fanned out big time. All these drivers who are on the apron got to merge themselves up. That's the 056 and Marcus Vanderlee, and looks at the 92 as well in that chaos. And this is going to actually split the pack up into 2. So all these drivers in that second half of the field, they got to regroup themselves, or else they're going to lose the draft. Actually, they've already lost the draft, so we're now left with at least, I'd say, 15 cars up here. And a bit of 3 wide action there by the 70. Looks like that's led by maybe Jerry Cook. Yes, it is. Jeremy Cook there on that high side with the 39 of Aiden Kirker. But yeah, we split the pack up, and it seems as though we only have like a 12-car pull-away.
Gonna correct myself on that front. Let's see, James Bomar is not out of this race. We still have pretty much everybody in this field, and the only caution we've had so far tonight, the driver who was mostly damaged by the first yellow, was the 55 of Austin Duran, and somehow the 55 is back in 15th. Still with a car that's living and breathing right now as he gets behind the 14th place car of Joe Berge. And look at Jack Leslie there in the middle, and that Cheerio Chevrolet looking to find some momentum. Hunter Fox will go to the outside, so we'll try to follow with the 70 and the 39. A bit of chaos now at the front. They're going to try and split Trafari for the lead. They'll make it 3 wide for P1 to turn 1. Canizaro giving Zabo the push for the first spot.
Boy, that, maybe had a bit of... Yep, we do have a bit of a big shuffle right in the background. We got a wrecking too. And one car is dead sideways. I cannot believe he saved that. He's on the apron and out of harm's way, but they shuffled around. I think Garrett White was also involved in that scuffle. Now we have a caution.
Caution is out for the second time this evening. I think Joe Berge might have had a piece of it. They're all slowing down. We saw the 55 of Joe, or rather not Joe Berge, Austin Doran sideways. That's Hunter Fox in trouble at the entrance of turn 3.
Yeah, it looks like there was 2 separate wrecks that happened there at once. One was actually in the middle of the back straightaway up toward the front, but there was also a secondary wreck prior to that backstretch incident.
So here's a look at what happened on the back straightaway. Hunter Fox made it about 4 wide for a brief second then got contact with the 37 of Jack Leslie, went for a spin to the apron. Now, this would not naturally be a caution just because this is underneath the racing line, but I guess because of the trouble that happened as they were all getting back on the racetrack, it definitely caused some issues, and it put some drivers in some really tough spots. Here's a big checkup that really put Brayson Collins on the worst end of it all. And it's Time Makes Music Chevrolet, a bit of smoke up at the front, a big checkup, and just slams directly into the rear end of what looks to be Bo Krebs. And that was Austin Duran, who went sideways. Got a piece of the contact with Logan Suyi, who finished in the top 3 the last time we were at a super speedway at Atlanta. I think just got contact in turn 1 from Chris Downey in the 22, then got hit by the 19, went sideways going for the apron. It checked up everybody in the field. And that is a huge scare for all the playoff drivers, including Ezekiel, the 97 of Caden Reif, barely getting away from all that.
Yeah, I'm surprised that wasn't a bigger wreck than what it was supposed to be. But, man, 15 laps to go. Everybody comes on in. Pit stops are open. Connor Hervilla will lead the field onto the pit lane to service their machines. Seems as though if you want to get track position, or do you want to keep yourself up front, you got to go ahead and just take on fuel only, unless you were involved in that incident, and you might as well take on tires and such. But for all these drivers on here on the racetrack, fuel only, I'm pretty sure. We're running, looks like by the looks of it, 75% fuel. So if you do pit from this point forward, you will be able to make it all the way to the end. And for everybody here working themselves out, seems as though we have a couple of takers who have also stayed themselves out on the racetrack. So it's going to shuffle the field quite a bit, and those people who are up front probably going to be coming out of pit road, going to be 13th, around, I'd say, outside this top 10.
It looks to be 8th on back, or rather 9th on back, that are coming for service. That is Hunter Collier, the leader out of the pit lane. Jay Mulder, the last driver to stay out. That will hand the lead to John Canizaro in the 018. So all these drivers going to stay out and just going to look to do whatever they can to be at the front and go for the race win here in this Dynamo Designs 201. It has been a crazy race since the drop of the green lap number 1. We've had some 3-wide action, some potential 4-wide, and for the cautions that we have had, it really hasn't involved all too many drivers. But now we get into this home stretch of this race. It isn't very long, only 47 laps that you have, halfway of what an NIS length a race here at Talladega would look like. So now for these drivers, they're in this move to the end. They're not going to play the conservative game any longer. They're not going to be in their plan of, okay, here's what I got to do to make these positions one by one. I need to go all out 150% if I want to win this race. And that goes for all the playoff drivers. These drivers that are at the bottom of the playoff grid. You look at guys like Joe Berge, who's been consistent all night. He's going to try and look to win this race. Sky McGurk, who has kind of been hanging around but hasn't done all too much. And Clayton Ramstead, Timmy Spatz, and Caden Reif at the bottom of the cut line. They want to have themselves over that by the time we get to Martinsville, and trust me, Martinsville is going to be an absolute insane race when you talk about a cut line race. But now it's just going all out. You got to go for the win, and there's no other way around it.
100% agree. You got to go for the win, especially with, it looks like we're going to cross the line with 13 laps to go. We're coming down to the single-digit mark, and once we get less than 10 to go, of course, everybody's agenda is going to flip itself, and it's going to funnel itself into got to put yourself in position. And we still have, looks like 41 drivers out of the 43 who've entered, all on the lead lap. That is an insane number. So even though you might be a bit damaged, you maybe could salvage maybe a top 20 off of this with 41 drivers on the lead lap. That is an insane number. By the way, a bit of interesting fact, looks like one of these drivers who was involved in that caution is going to decide to stay out. Brayson Collins is going to play a very interesting factor into this. That whole entire front end is gone and missing, and he's going to start himself in 5th. So for all those drivers right behind that number 5, they got to be wary of that 5 situation and work themselves around Brayson to get themselves up to speed. So for all those drivers who maybe have a spotter, or these drivers who maybe are toward the front, call that out. Maybe help the drivers, navigate around some slower traffic. So hopefully Brayson doesn't cause too much of a hiccup on this restart, but that 5's worrying me.
I think the spotter's going to come in very handy if it looks to be getting around this 5 car. You see the front end completely torn off, and while this 5 could possibly survive in the draft, it is not going to get up to speed in comparison to the cars that are completely clean on the racetrack. It is going to be an absolute tough job for Steven Shipman in the 61, most notably the guy right behind him, to get around. We may see 3, maybe 4 wide, depending on the aggression here for this restart inside. 12 laps to go. We'll give you a full field rundown, at least for the top 10. John Cannizzaro is still looking for his first career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series win. He'll be in P1. Pierce Maffitt on the outside in second. Chris Downey in third. David Bachman moving his way to P4 on the racetrack. Ryan Martin will be inside the top 5. Then goes Brayson Collins, Hunter Collier, Steven Shipman, Ryan Zabot, and what will be the 51 of Jay Mulder. Payne's truck is down. They'll make the long routes to the start-finish line to complete lap number 35. We'll have 12 laps remaining in this Dynamo Designs 201. It's an early jump by the 018. Will that bite him in the back when we get to turn 1? Green flag back in the air.
Oh, that was a bad idea by John Cannizzaro. He should have went on green. And look at this field. They funnel easily right behind John Cannizzaro, who is a sitting duck in a field full of alligators. And here comes Maffitt. Here in that number 47, he's going to look for a run. Bachman maybe looking to peek up with him. Bachman might make the move first before Maffitt does. Now Maffitt goes to the high side. Huge block by Cannizzaro down the back.
Huge block, and there goes Pierce Maffitt at the bottom. He'll stay to the inside. That will give the momentum to this outside group. Chris Downey, help from Ryan Martin, and Hunter Collier now make it 4 cars with Ryan Zabot in the 10 on the backside, and we've got a challenge for the lead into turn 3 and 4. For what's going to be 11 laps to go from Talladega. For right now, Cannizzaro is still clear up at the front. You saw on the restart, Collins back down to the apron. Everybody had to check up, and it is absolutely strung out this field, all accordion back together, this time at the start-finish line.
Yeah, with 11 laps to go, John Cannizzaro, with him jumping that restart, has actually left out, looks like the top 14 drivers all by themselves, but this back half of the field, they're going to come up with a huge run. And that 98 of Hunter Collier and the 61 of Steven Shipman, they had a huge run in that second half. Look at them, they have a huge run now. Look at that third line, just power to that second lane. They're going to go for the lead.
Hunter Collier, help from the 61 and the 69. They're going to challenge for the lead at the exit of turn 4. And we've seen Hunter Collier be so aggressive all night long. It has worked in his favor. A seasoned super speedway driver now looking for the point as we cross for 10 laps to go. Jafari might get booted out of line. And look who's on the inside. Garrett White in the 26 back to turn 1.
Boy, they were 4 wide there through the middle of the trial. Luckily, that trial just widens out. Look how deep they are. They are 3 by 3, at least I'd say 9 or 10 rows. And this is what Talladega is all about. That 98 just took the bait to pull into that third lane, and he's getting a huge shot from the 61. Now Cannizzaro's going to throw a huge block on that high side, going to stall him out a bit. And that 018 and John Cannizzaro is playing the Dale Jr. simulator, trying to block as many lanes as he can, keep the field right behind him.
But you have to be immensely careful. One wrong move and one wrong push can send you sideways and can create the big one. We've got 3 by 3 all the way down through this first pack. Leader on the third line. Now the 61 of Shipman. Now making Garrett White, the defending winner of this race, on the outside, the second car in line in that blue number 26. He's got a shot at the race win. Hunter Collier back to block on the inside. Downey to fill the spot in the middle. We are still even for P1. Back to turn 1.
Garrett White just about turned that 61. He's in that third lane and still right up off the corners. Garrett White, he wants to pull himself a bit of playoff positions and secure himself into the next round. But that 26, he's going to look on the low side. That 61 could not block in time. And Garrett White going through the middle is going to dip out Steven Shipman for the lead.
And 26 looking for what would be his 6th win of the season. And what will be his 2nd in a row again. He's got help from the 22 of Chris Downey. The third line will fizzle out quite a bit. And it looks like the momentum rides with the Blue Jay Creative Studio Camaro. Garrett White to the lead with 8 laps to go. And here comes Downey to fight back on the top.
Yeah, it looks like Garrett, he wanted to go ahead and hold middle. Maybe stall out that 22. Just maybe a slight bit, but they keep themselves side by side for right now. here comes Steven Shipman yet again. Has help from the 69 Jafari. Aiden Kirker in the 39, not really tucked up. Oh, bit of shuffle there in that middle. And that's going to jam him up. David Bachman gets a bad bump from the 84. But here they go. They go down the back. The 61 is clear. That middle lane. And he doesn't take the bait to go ahead and drop himself down. He wants to keep himself up with that 69. Maybe hook himself up there in that third lane.
And now the question becomes, what does Connor Trafari do? We've seen him be a driver to lead a lane so many times in this race. Now he's the pusher on the 61. He is yet to get out of line. Does he find a way to lead this group on the third lane, or does he get to another line and say, I'm not going to work with you, 61, no more in the final laps? Hunter Collier gets a large push from Chris Downey in the 22. He'll surge to the lead for a moment. He'll block in front of Garrett White. And for now, no news out of that third group. They are all roughly 4 or 5 cars deep, and they have made no statements for right now. I think this could be the move on the back straightaway. A little bit of shuffling through the mid-pack of the field, but Hunter Collier going to stay up front, nose ahead of Chris Downey in turn 3.
Yeah, coming down. There's 7 laps to go now. They go 3 by 3 around 8 rows deep, but that 61, Shipman, he's been present, but hasn't made too much of a factor in that third lane. But that 69, Contrafari, doing a whale of a job of pushing that third lane forward. Hasn't gone too far up to that first row. Now they're side by side, three wide for the lead, but that 61, he needs more help, and he needs more presence there in that third lane. But Trafari, he needs more than just Kirker and that number 29 there in that third lane to make that outside line work. He has to get some pushes from that whole entire outside lane.
And they had a couple of more cars to join. One of them was Cameron McCone, then Josh Patterson, but Patterson has since backed out. I think he's had enough of what he's seen. He is avoiding what could be the big one inside 5 laps to go. And we're seeing almost big ones happen. Drivers getting loose and wiggling around just because of the immense checkups that you have when pushers are trying to push the pusher. They are trying to do all that they can to get as much momentum as possible. A car strikes the outside wall. We're going to stay green though, but still, all these checkups in the middle of the pack are definitely going to affect everybody behind them. It could check drivers up, get them loose, and we could have ourselves a big stack up and a big crash. Caution flag will wave, and it will be for a problem further back in the field. It's Tyson Gifford in trouble.
Oh man, the second pack wrecked it. About 12 seconds back was the second pack, and it seems as though those drivers who were just trying to pull themselves and maybe get a chance to race these leaders have imploded upon themselves. So we're going to get a caution here with 5 laps to go, and it seems as though, unfortunately, we're going to have a late race restart in for Hunter Collier, Chris Downey, Garrett White. Oh man, what are you going to do off of this restart now?
And that was huge for Sky McGuirk, the rookie driver. He's a playoff runner, by the way. He got hit and got sent sideways, and this is the exact moment of caution. Laith Hicks, Hunter Fox, and Tyson Gifford all stack up on the outside wall and get collected in a big crash. Inside 5 laps to go, and Hunter Fox, it has become an absolute switch of momentum from what was an aggressive push to the front, has now turned completely sour. He's going to have to spend some time on pit road a little longer to repair that Chevrolet Camaro. As Hunter Collier will have the race lead, he'll try and find the iRacing official pace truck, which is sitting in turn 3 right now, will exactly calm the field down. We will have an overtime restart here in this Dynamo Designs 201. So that is huge for the drivers of Sky McGuirk, who almost got involved in that crash but was able to survive. Josh Patterson, who had pretty much stayed out of trouble in that last run. He's 21st on the racetrack. You look at guys like the number 97 of Caden Reif back in the 33rd spot. You look at Dimitri Mundos. Drivers who have just pretty much parked into the back of the field now have the opportunity to get up with everybody else, have a chance potentially to gain some spots, gain some well-needed points. But this is going to be huge. You're going to get into the final 2 laps, and we talked about the last half of the race, Ezekiel, being the place where you're going to start gunning for the lead, and now there's no mercy on anything at all. A push is going to be a push. You're going to try and do whatever you can to win this race. And between the drivers that we've seen tussle for the front of this pack in the last couple of laps, I'd say it's going to get very chaotic and very fast.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Overtime restart, just 2 laps to make something happen. And those drivers who are in the back half of the field, they're going to be hungry to do whatever they can, and they're going to take any gap they see to pull themselves forward through this field. And for those top 10, honestly, I wouldn't say for all these 34 drivers, they still have a solid chance to go ahead and pull themselves to the field to win it. But position-wise, track position, anybody within, I'd say, this top 8, all have a chance to go ahead and maybe come out of here victorious. Due to the fact that with all these engine temperatures now cold, it's going to be hard to take a run for that third lane to make it work. So those drivers toward the rear end of the field, I mean, they're going to throw the kitchen sink to get that outside, or that way outside work to work, excuse me. But they may come up short for all of those people who are outside of that top 20. But for Hunter Collier, Chris Downey, Garrett White, they are in a prime spot to come out of here with a good finish. And at a wild card like Talladega, that is huge.
Cooperation is going to be the big thing to watch for on this restart. And Canizaro, what he did on that restart where he just jumped so far ahead of the field, if you're Hunter Collier, you're taking notes and saying, that's the first thing I am not going to do when I hop on the gas pedal into that Geico restart zone. I want to have everybody as close to me as possible, to the point where if I get out of turn 2, I am not going to be absolutely freight trained by the field. I'm going to have some support. And with the fact that it looks like Garrett White is going to be on the inside in row number 2, you're going to have a good pusher behind you as well. So you got to keep that in mind. And Hunter Collier, he's been a driver that's done well at these super speedways, hasn't picked up a win at any of the super speedway races in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, but he is always a force to be reckoned with in some case. And Collier going to have a lot on his shoulders as he will cross the line, and we'll try to get the 1 to green signal for 2 laps to go. So this is going to be huge on behalf of exactly what lane this number 98 is going to choose. He can go up to the outside where he will have, I believe it'll be Garrett White or Ryan Martin, and then go to the inside. It just depends on what line he wants to choose, where he's more comfortable. We'll see exactly what happens when we cross the line this time through, and we'll have a restart again with 2 laps to go. So this is the 3rd super speedway race, the final one in season 2 of this series. We had our first one at Daytona, chaotic finish to the end, and we knew Garrett White was in contention for that win as well. The win ended up in Jay Mulder's hands in the 51. Mulder right now not in contention to win. He's pretty far back in this field. And then you look at Alexander Hyder, who was the winner at Atlanta Motor Speedway, the 2nd super speedway race we had. He's in 22nd behind Jay Mulder, who's in 21st. So we have the prime opportunity, Ezekiel, for what could be a driver getting their first win ever in this series, and a driver getting the streak completed in terms of different super speedway winners. We've got 2 drivers that have never won a race in this series at the very front.
Yeah, that's right. And another fact to bestow upon is for Garrett A. White, coming in here as a playoff driver, he wants to get the line going so he doesn't fall through the field. And it seems as though Hunter Collier is going to go ahead and pick the inside line, and that's a great choice in my opinion, because Garrett White, I don't know if he wants to play the safe game to walk out of here with as many points as he can, but just keep yourself in line and finish inside this top 5, and maybe all what Garrett White is looking for here off of Talladega. And points mean a lot, especially with, 35 cars still on the lead lap. One white flag wreck could pull a potential top 5 into an absolute shunt. So Garrett White, I'm pretty sure he's just going to stay committed with Hunter Collier throughout this restart and pull himself through to the white flag at least.
Remember, we saw Garrett White in the race lead and control last season when we were here, and all green-white checkered attempts were exhausted, giving the number 26 the race win. Will it pan out the same way? But most importantly, can that 26 get to the point by the time we wave that checkered flag, whether it be under yellow or not, and get his 6th win of the season, and only continue to put on that buffer between himself and everybody else in the playoffs by the time we get to Martinsville? A sea of non-playoff drivers, and then Garrett White with Hunter Collier at the very front, looking for the Geico restart zone. It'll be our first attempt to extend this race. Lap number 47 will start this time by Hunter Collier. Grabs the gas pedal. We're back under green in the Dynamo Designs 201. A solid start by Collier in the first corner. with Garrett White to give the push. That outside struggling to get going. It's Connor Trafari forcing his way through the middle. Steven Shipman gonna block by the time they get to turn 2. He wiggles for a bit. White looks to block the very outside lane. He'll get in front of Downey. They're 3 wide for the lead.
Yeah, here comes that number 26, Garrett A. White. He pulled a huge block off of turn number 2, but the 22 is not going to stay committed. They're going to go 3 wide off the bat. Here comes the 22, Chris Downey. Huge push there by the 69 Shafari. And they're going to go to the front, and Garrett White is going to jam up this inside line. Here we go, coming here to the white flag, through the trial. They're going to go 4 wide here.
And Trafari looked to go to the inside. Downey blocked. He got a bit sideways. This race will be official. We're 3 wide for second. White flag in the air from Talladega. Here comes Shipman with a run for the lead in turn 1.
Oh boy, all bets are off. The 61 of Shipman. Oh, they're wrecking in the back. Berkey's involved in it. Oh my goodness, a lot of playoff drivers involved in that. But they're 3 by 3 off of turn number 2. And here comes the 61 of Shipman.
White getting pushed sideways. He gets moved out of line. They're 4 wide in the back. The 22 of Downey looking to get his first career win. They're sideways in turn 3. Collier and Garrett White go around about. Here comes Ryan Martin to make it 3 wide for a second. Final time out of turn 4. Downey to block. Martin at the top. Side by side. We're 3 wide for the lead. Contact in a Trafari. Martin tries to survive. John Cannizzaro forces his way to the top. And Cannizzaro is finally victorious in WORC. Win number 1 at Talladega.
Oh my gosh, John Cannizzaro from the 3rd lane. He was 8th at the time he crossed the start-finish line on the white flag. And John Cannizzaro is a WORC winner here at Dega.
The 018 gets back to the front, and in 2 laps, Cannizzaro is victorious for the first time in his WORC Dynamo Designs National Series career. In an unbelievable run to the finish, Ryan Martin, Steven Shipman complete the top 3 in strong races at the end for both of them and their Camaros. And they'll help Cannizzaro in his celebrations. But an absolutely insane finish brings the 018 to victory lane for the first time. And for Cannizzaro, we have seen him many, many times in this series, whether it be at a 1.5 mile track, whether it be at a short track, whether it be at a super speedway. Cannizzaro has always found a way to be there. He was eliminated from the playoffs in the round of 14 after a couple of races of struggles. Bristol and Pocono, the last time we saw him running for a championship. But Cannizzaro, despite all of the circumstances, finds a way to P1 and burns it down from Lincoln, Alabama.
You know where Cannizzaro started? 37th. He started himself 37th on the grid and worked himself through the field. And that whole entire white flag all just played to his favor. He just snuck himself right through the middle and had a gap once they collided up front. Once that 22 and 9, Ryan Martin and looks like the 22 Chris Downey, they both collided. John Cannizzaro, he just snuck by on the high side. And looking at this wreck toward the back, we got a lot of playoff names involved in that one. And it's Talladega. That's what it's all about.
And this is 4 wide. In the back of the field, that's Frederick Seagraves that got turned to kick it all off by Connor Hervilla. Look at Brianna Lavin, Josh Patterson, David Bachman, Pierce Maffett, all of them going end over end. And Maffett going up and over once more, rolling a couple of times before landing on all 4 wheels. And you're right, Ezekiel, a lot of playoff drivers involved, and that's Berge, who sat right below the cut line going into tonight's race. We'll try to get a better look at it. This is from Josh Patterson, who goes up and over and lands on his roof. There's Chase Marsden at the end of all this. Seagraves coming to a stop. Patterson having to just tow the car. Nothing else he could do. There's a bit of contact that happens at the bottom of the racetrack. Aiden Kirker, Garrett White, Hunter Collier looked like the heavy hitters to win this race. Here's Cannizzaro through the middle 3 wide. with Jeremy Cook to help. That's Chris Downey, who is going to make contact with Martin as he comes down the track. And as they scatter, Cannizzaro just finds clear track in front of him, and that's all she wrote. That's all he needed to nose ahead of Martin by the time they got to that start-finish line. And Ezekiel, we talk about how important the placement of this start-finish line here is at Talladega in comparison to Daytona. It's not in the middle of the tri-oval. It is right after you get out of it. So you have that extra couple of hundred of feet to make a move happen. And anything could go down in that space of time. It just so happens that they make contact for the lead as they're 3 wide. And that's all that Cannizzaro just needed to have happen. It fell right in his lap, and he made the most of it. Cannizzaro, the winner.
Yeah, if it was Daytona, it would totally be a different story. And Brian Martin would be the winner if we were at Florida. But unfortunately, here in Alabama, John Cannizzaro in that 018, he snuck by on that high side and pulled that gap through. And John Cannizzaro comes out victorious here tonight. Ryan Martin in second. Looks like Steven Shipman, Aiden Kirker, Jeremy Cook gonna round out the top 5. Ryan Zabot, Nicholas Budlemick, Connor Trafari, Hunter Collier, and Garrett White somehow involved in that last lap incident. It seemed as though he stuck himself through a top 10.
He's the only playoff driver to finish this race inside the top 10. That should give him more than enough to survive by next week's race at Martinsville, and that should get him to the championship 4. Chris Downey is 11th at the drop of the checker. TJ Allaire is 12th. Alexander Hyder could not replicate the success that he had at Atlanta a while back. He's 13th. Dimitri Mundros was up and down throughout this race at one point at the very back. He ends up 14th, so not exactly the worst case scenario for the driver that came into this race inside the top 4 in standings. Clayton Ramstead is in the top 15, then followed by Timmy Spatz, then Kanan Rife, so 4 playoff drivers all in a row from 14th back to 17th. Paul Granada is 18th. Tristan Rivers will be 19th. And then rounding out the top 20 is Sky McGurk. Had a couple of scares in this race. That's where he will finish, and he'll try to get into the championship for the first time in his career in this series at Martinsville. Henry Clappert is 21st. Bo Krebs 22nd. 23rd to Chase Marsden. Ryan Kame and Brianna Lavin complete the top 25. Remember, a bulk of these drivers involved in that big crash inside the final lap. Connor Hervilla is 26th. Frederick Seagraves in 27th. And then Pierce Maffitt, Jay Mulder, and Joe Berge to wrap up the top 30. Such a tough break for Joe Berge, who had been running well all race long and then just got caught up in that big one at the end. Tyson Gifford is 31st. David Bachman 32nd. Laith Hicks is 33rd. He's the last driver in this field that'll be on the lead lap. Josh Patterson is 34th, 1 lap down. James Bomar 35th. Austin Duran, the first driver, 2 laps down in 36th. Then goes 37th for the double away to Hunter Fox. A good race to start, a bad race to finish. Cameron McCone is 38th. Marcus Vanderlee is 39th. Logan Suyi to wrap up the top 40. Then the final 4 drivers in this field: Duncan Few, Brayson Collins, Jack Leslie, and this is going to be huge for Gino Mero in the 71. He was above the cut line going into this race, now might be below by the time we get to Martinsville Speedway. So we'll try and talk to the drivers who end up in our top 3. Of course, cash prizes to all 3 of them. We'll talk first to the driver who occupies victory lane for the first time in his WORC Dynamo Designs National Series career. We're joined by John Cannizzaro. And John, I know you were just right in the thick of things in those final 2 laps, and that's really all you needed, the contact right in front of you. Give us your perspective behind the wheel in those final few laps, and just give us the feel of what it's like for you to win a race in this series for the first time.
The perspective of that, well, was the back of Ryan Martin's car, because that's all I could see. My dashboard was lighting up bright red. That's about the only reason I could see, because I had my eyes closed, expecting to get nailed down the backstretch. Other than that, I think to finally get a Grand National win after probably the worst single second half of a season I've ever had. I got wrecked at Pocono going for the win. I got absolutely botched at Bristol by strategy. Couldn't run Charlotte, and I got eliminated from the chase, and now I decided to win. So it's a little upsetting to know I can't go for the championship, but a win's a win. I'm happy about it, and I couldn't get it in any more exciting way.
Was there any feeling of redemption in that ending of the race at Pocono where you were eliminated from the playoffs, and what was that last-ditch effort? Did that give you any sort of redemption for this race and to try and go out and just win as much as you can?
Oh, there definitely was. By the end of Pocono, I was upset. I was mad that I, couldn't even get the chance to fight for the championship. I just got completely wrecked out of it. But, I sit in the back all race usually at super speedways, and that usually ends up biting me. You get pushed into the big one by someone that's not your fault. And this time I decided I was going to go try to cause the big one, and it ended up happening behind me. And I don't care what people want to say. I blocked 3 lanes on a restart, and it paid off.
It pays off for sure. You get your first career win in this series, and you do it in outstanding fashion. And now comes the final few races of this season. We're getting down to it already. Martinsville close off the round of 9, and then Homestead of Miami. So with this win, well, what's the mindset like for the final 2 races?
The mindset would be, if you have a problem, you better make it quick, because I got nothing to lose, and they do.
Well, a huge win here in this Dynamo Designs 201 from Talladega. John, before we let you go and continue your celebrations, anybody in particular you want to thank for tonight's run?
I know Brace was pretty upset he had a wreck car at the end. Him for putting on the lid. I know we always bash him a lot for some of the stupid stuff that happens in these races, but he tries his best. You put on the broadcast, Zeke for being in the booth. I finally get a win in a series that Zeke's broadcasting. Frederick Seagraves, he painted this car for me, and I finally got a win in it. It was only meant to run one race. I decided to take it back out, and I think it's the good luck charm now at Super Speedways. Stay tuned sports. He's been on all of my cars. Gaming Chef, he's in chat. He does our dirt series, and everybody else for watching.
You know, I never knew there was a Zeke curse for broadcasting races that you were in, but nonetheless.
Ow.
Well, John Canizaro, a huge win here from Talladega, your first career win in this series. And, of course, on behalf of our entire broadcast team of the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on the win here from Dega. I'm looking forward to seeing you at Martinsville next week.
Thank you.
So that is the 018 to Canizaro. Zeke, I apologize. I did not know there was a thing as sort of the first win while you're broadcasting. I'm not sure.
I didn't know that either. You learn more, you know?
You learn something new every day. We'll talk to the driver who comes home second in this race, just short of the checkered flag. That is the number 9 of Ryan Martin, and Zeke, you're caught up with him.
Hey, Ryan, this is Zeke up in the KBueno Racing booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, man, that white flag was hectic. Of course, another late race restart to go ahead and end off this Talladega event, but it all happened there through that white flag. Just walk me through it.
That whole restart, I thought we were going to fall back bad, me and John, because we jumped up a little early, but we were lucky enough to get, Steven, to jump up in front of us and help, and it was just pure chaos, watching everybody wreck behind us, and once I seen the big wreck in 2, I was just keeping it pinned and hoping Steven kept it straight so we could roll by, and turned out to work for the 3 of us.
Yeah, it definitely did. You round yourself out second here tonight, but of course the move for the win happened through that trial. Well, was there anything you could have really done to prevent that move from happening, or was it all fated to go John Canizaro's way, I guess?
Yeah, about the only thing I could have done is wreck him. I wouldn't do that to John.
All right, buddy. But besides the fact that you finished second, overall, how did your race, pan out to be? Besides finishing in second, how was the process through to getting yourself up there?
Other than a small incident on pit road trying to get into my box and getting hit, the whole race was pretty good. I managed to miss all the big wrecks, was either right in front of them or right behind them, and kept it pretty clean. It worked out for the end.
All right, bud. 10-4. That's Ryan Martin there. And then number 9, finishing out second here for tonight. But before we let you go, any sponsor you want to take here for tonight?
Racing, obviously. I've got Scott Milton's insurance company on the car because it's the ARCA team I work for, so the whole Kimmel Racing gang. I don't know, there's some other sponsor Racing wanted me to shout out, but I don't remember who, so. But also Tyson with Limeade Media.
All right, bud. 10-4. That's Ryan Martin. And the number 9, finishing out second here at Talladega. We'll go ahead and see him next race, man.
See you next.
That's Ryan Martin in the 9, who comes home second from Talladega. And despite the fact that he does not have the checkered flag at the end of this race, he does get a bit of the cash prize on behalf of Cameron McCone and Patrick Jenks. Patrick Jenks, the owner of the Keystone Corner. The driver who finishes third, also getting a bit of the cash prize, is the number 61 of Steven Shipman. And Steven, you were in this race all the way to the very end when it came down to that final restart, outside 3 wide for a while for the race lead. What was this race like for you in that last half? And just give us what it's like to be in that situation going to the end.
You're just so focused forward. If you watch the last restart, or that coming to the last lap, I'm in the 3rd lane, but I didn't realize that there was no one in between us, in the 2nd lane there was the leaders in the first lane, and I should have went down. Ryan made a great move, passed me down there, but I was just so focused because that third lane almost would just get so much better runs on the straightaways, not so much in the turns. But I was just so focused looking forward, didn't really realize that. But it was intense that last part. Those wrecks were hard to avoid, but that's why I kind of just chilled in the back, did my thing. And once I think there was like 17 to go on one of those last restarts, I was like, all right, it's time to go.
And we talk so much about those philosophies of whether you want to stay up at the front and do all that you can to be up there for the end, or you just want to be in the back, wait for all the chaos to settle, and then go up to the front. For you, though, on your way to the front, was it just a solo effort for you, or did you feel like you found some friends out on the racetrack that could give you some nice pushes and put you in these positions to be at the front with a chance to win?
Honestly, as much as I don't want to say it, it seemed like a solo effort, the 17 to go, but after that, that last green and white checkered, Ryan and John behind me were giving great pushes. I was just trying to keep it straight, and then Ryan made a great move. They just, they left me, went under me. I was up in the third lane. I mean, I would have done the same. I saw him going down, and if you watch the replay, I make the move down. I was like, crap, I'm gonna wreck everybody. So I just kept it straight, gas down. Then I saw him wrecking, and I was like, you know what, last lap, just gonna keep the gas down. But Ryan was definitely a good push, helped me get that third position for sure.
So you finish inside the top 3 here at Talladega. I know there's 2 races left, Martinsville, the paperclip, and then we go to South Florida at Homestead, Miami. Do you have any plans for those 2 races, or what is your outlook like in the final races of season number 2?
I'd say for Martinsville, definitely want to just survive, as was my kind of motto going into this one, because that I know you can get some cosmetic damage and still be able to run, but that could that track can produce some wrecks. But then at Homestead, I love that track. You can run high, you can run low, run in the middle. Definitely just looking to maybe get another top 5, maybe get a win. These guys are so good in this whole race. That's why I do this league, and I love your broadcast. I watch it, try to get my friends to watch it. It's just elite. It just feel a whole elite production.
I certainly appreciate the kind words. It really does mean a lot, Steven, though. Before we let you go on this podium finish in the Dynamo Designs 201, anybody else you'd like to thank for tonight's finish?
I guess I'd like to thank my sponsor, the card that I made, the Army National Guard. I got my dad on it. He was a Master Sergeant in the Army National Guard. I'd like to shout out to my grandparents. They were married for 61 years. That's why I carried the 61, and that's about it.
We certainly appreciate the time. Steven, on behalf of our entire broadcast crew at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on the 3rd place finish here from Talladega. Looking forward to seeing you at Martinsville next week.
Thank you. I'll see you then. Appreciate it.
That is the number 61 of Steven Shipman to 3rd place at the end of the race here in Lincoln, Alabama. So now, Ezekiel, we look at the playoff grid, and unfortunately, we're not able to give you a proper graphic like we did at the top of tonight's show. But because of the fact that we did not have a lot of playoff drivers at the front of the field, at least not often, we have had a significant shift in who's above the cut line and now who's below going into the final race of the round of 9 at Martinsville Speedway. We'll start at the top. Garrett White in the 26 with this finish, and even despite getting involved in that crash, his top 10 finish is well more than enough to keep him at the top of the playoff standings at 1635, his total point standing. Dimitri Mundros, who had been up and down all race long, came home 14th. He now shoots up to 2nd on the playoff board, so he was inside the top 4. He's going to stay there by the time we get to Martinsville, but it is a pretty decent gap, roughly 18 points or so back to the points leader. But then 3rd and 4th on back is where things get very intense. Guess who's 3rd now? The 21 of Clayton Ramstead, who came home 15th in tonight's race. Sky McGurk, the rookie driver, we saw him back and forth all race long. The 82 is now the last driver in, and by a total of 2 points. Back to Timmy Spatz at 1599. McGurk is at 1597. Timmy Spatz will be at the entrance of Martinsville. Josh Patterson will have a hurdle to overcome at the paperclip in 1 week time. He is P6 on the playoff route. Then goes Joe Berge in 7th, tied with Caden Rife at 1591. And the last driver in our playoff field, the one who was DNF'd in P44 at the end of this race at Talladega, Gino Mero in the 71, who was at one point the points leader in the regular season and even someone in the playoffs, is now going to have to fight for his championship life at Martinsville. And when we talk about, Ezekiel, the different types of races in this round, Chicagoland, yeah, that's pretty difficult, but it's a 1.5 mile track. You could survive. Talladega, it is so hard to survive. And in this race, being the middle one of the round, it just changes the entire complexion of the playoff fight. And now you got to go to Martinsville and beat and batter yourself to the playoff field in the top 4.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm looking at the points right now. I mean, there's some really, really good drivers outside of that cutoff, and Martinsville is your last shot to really make something happen, and a short track to cut the race. I mean, to go ahead and eliminate a fair amount of playoff drivers for that top 4 at Homestead in a couple of weeks. That's going to be one sight to behold, and a lot of storylines are going to come into that, and I'm excited to see on who's maybe going to pull themselves maybe a comeback story through at Martinsville.
Remember, still, anything can happen. There's still a lot that could go down in Martinsville. That's going to be a whale of a race. We'll have that 1 week from tonight here on the KBueno Racing Network, 7 p.m. Eastern on March 9th. And then, of course, we will have the conclusion of Season 2 at the Homestead of Miami Speedway the week after. On March 16th, we will decide our championship 4 there in South Florida for the second time in this series history. And with Garrett White and Gino Miro, Josh Patterson, and what was the last driver in that group, in the Timmy Spatz, those championship 4 drivers, all of them still in the playoffs with a chance to go back to the final round. But, of course, for many, it is going to be a very tough challenge to get back to championship glory. So that'll do it for our broadcast of the Dynamo Designs 201 from the virtual Talladega Super Speedway. For Brayson Collins and everybody at the World Online Racing Championship, for Charlie Byer, Keelan Belsha, Francisco Bacallao at the KBueno Racing Network, and for my colleague in the booth, Ezekiel Reyes, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Saying so long, good night from virtual Alabama. We head to Virginia 1 week from tonight at Martinsville to decide the championship 4.